Hey, this is Aaron at Power Popaholic, and I am talking to Phil Thornalley, uh, who's recently come out with this wonderful new album that's come out. Phil, why don't you tell us a little bit about the album? How
Yeah,
are you doing?
sure. It's it's a kind of since I retired from writing songs for other people and being in people's bands, I started making my own music. I made a couple of albums with a as a project called Astral Drive, which was very much a kind of homage to Todd Rundgren, 70s Todd
Yes.
Rundgren. He was my hero, total like inspiration. And then I started writing songs that were more in a kind of I don't know. I just went down this ELO kind of Jeff Lynne sounding route, and I just have a lot of fun doing it. So Andrew at the record company Low Jinx, he just encouraged me. He was just like, yeah, keep doing that. And before I knew it, I had like 25 songs, which we
Wow.
made into 10 tracks. There's three extra tracks on the CD, but it's all out there to be enjoyed. So it's very much very guitar-y, lots of
Yes,
harmony vocals. And I'd like to think the thing that maybe sets it apart from the brilliant production and the awe-inspiring multi-instrumentalist that is me, is that it has orchestra on most of the songs,
yes.
proper orchestra in the tradition of ELO. You know, the kind of thing that if it's worth doing, it's worth overdoing, and that's what
That's
I've
right.
done.
That's right.
Yeah.
And just to make it clear to people, the name of the album is Now That I Have Your Attention. And you did get my
Yes.
attention for sure, and
Thank you.
everybody's attention with this album. I think it's wonderful. It's for people who basically said, you know what, I never got enough Jeff Lynne. I never got enough Traveling Wilburys. Is there anything
Yeah.
more out there? You're it.
Yeah.
You're it.
I suppose I'm beginning to, as I promote the record, I'm beginning to sort of create this tale about how the traveling Wilburys went traveling and they got lost. And what came back, all that was left was traveling Philbury. And I had a few of the songs left over from those
I love that.
magical sessions. Yeah.
That's
So
great.
run with that, Aaron.
I
Yeah.
definitely will.
Yeah.
I definitely will. Just to let's rewind just a little bit and tell me a little bit about your transition from being in a band to
Yeah.
basically producing. I know based on your bio you were on The Cure, you were the bass player, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
And you did that for an album or two.
I was principally, as a kid, I was just mad on music like we all are. And I taught myself to play. Then I got a job in the studio. I wanted to be a songwriter, but I wasn't really. I had a couple of, meetings with A&R people and didn't go anywhere. So I was lucky enough to get a job in a studio. And in the studio, the hierarchy kind of goes, you start as a T-boy or a runner, an assistant.
Right.
And then if you're any good, they let you engineer. And if you're really arrogant and quite annoying, and opinionated, they let you be a producer. And so I kind of quickly became a producer. I produced The Cure, an album for them. And then when their bass player left the band, the Robert and Simon fell out. And
Mhm.
Robert said to me, do you know any bass players? And I said, yes, I do. Uh,
Great.
so that took me touring with The Cure, and then I went back to producing records. I was always trying to write songs for other people. I was sort of aware I didn't really have the chops to be an artist myself. It wasn't until I kind of got into my 50s, I know, crazy, that I started going like, well, I always wanted to write. This is what I wanted to write instead of what the record company wanted or what the artist that I was collaborating with wanted, which, believe me, I love doing that. And I was very suited to it. But now, yeah, so that's my kind of my story arc,
Got it.
if,
Got it.
if you will.
So your story arc sort of goes from you were, I think you were on the Love Cats album, and you basically produced that. And then you kind of started, like you had mentioned, you had done some songwriting later on. The biggest hit, I guess people in general would know from you, is the song Torn, made famous by Natalie Imbruglia. That song has a pretty interesting history. How did that song sort of come together? And it went from like several artists before it became a hit too.
Yeah, quite an unusual story. It was actually written in the house we're in now,
Oh,
and Natalie's version was recorded here. The artist that there were three of us in the room writing. Anne Previn, who was the artist we were writing for, Scott Cutler, who was her artistic companion, and Scott knew me because we'd written before for the Pop Machine. And he knew I had production chops. He knew I had some guitar and bass techniques, and he also knew I was unemployed. So we wrote the song for Anne, and they didn't get any. They went back to America. They're both Anne's actually from New York, and Scott is from San Francisco, but they worked in Los Angeles, and they didn't get any action. So the grunge was happening. So very cleverly, they formed a band that was kind of, it's unfair to say jump in a bandwagon, but it was reflecting the commercial needs of the time.
right.
So they had a band, really cool band called Edna Swap, and then they got a record deal. So then they recorded Torn in a kind of grungy way. Then the song was recorded by a Danish artist, then a Norwegian ballad singer called Trine Ryan had #1 with it in Scandinavia. And then finally, Natalie did the kind of quintessential version that all your followers are probably groaning every time they hear it as it comes on, the kind of middle of the road station. One more time. Yeah.
But that's great that you broke through several times with several different artists as a songwriter.
Thanks.
I'm
Yes.
glad to see that you went through, and you also played and produced with so many different artists. A lot of them, my big heroes like XTC, Kasim Sultan, who worked with Todd Rundgren in Utopia, Sting, Blur. I mean, there's an endless list there, which is just really impressive by me. But then you produced the solo work, the Astral Drive projects, which were basically the best Todd Rundgren songs I've heard that Todd didn't write. And
Thank you.
Summer '76 was a great song. I love that song. I thought that worked out really well. Even the Love EP that came out later on was, I think, excellent. And you're like a chameleon, and now you're switching over to Now That I Have Your Attention and the ELO, or I would say more like the Wilburys, as opposed to just straight ELO, except for maybe one song, which I think the song, where is it now? The Bluer Than a Bluebird, which sounds a lot more like the Move, early Move. In my opinion, if you just had Jeff by himself, I think a lot of the orchestrations come close to what Jeff did, and you did it really well. But vocally, you're more like Tom Petty on that. In fact, that's why I think the first couple songs on the album, Heaven and a Hash Pipe, Hellbent and Compromise, Fast Car, all just hit the right buttons. I think it does really well. I just think and I think you're having fun. That's the one thing that I recognize in all your projects, from Astral Drive to this one. Is it sounds like you were having a ball doing this. I mean, who would write a song "Heaven in a Hash Pipe" unless they knew what it was like?
Well, no one's going to cover that song. Which is part of the kind of, when you are the artist and you can make those decisions, like Summer of '76, you mentioned that tune. That was really personal to me, and it was my kind of autobiography in 3 minutes of pop. That sounds a bit pretentious, but when you have the freedom to be the artist and just go like, this isn't probably going to sell, nobody's going to listen to it, I'm just going to do what I want to do, and then lots of people go, "That's very cool," and
But
it's so heartwarming.
yeah, and
It's really
it's probably what I would consider the best definition of a great power pop record is the fact that power pop is created more for the artist's enjoyment, not specifically to sell records, so to speak. Like, the
right.
studio would want you to like follow the latest trends, follow. No, no, you follow what you like, what you grew up with, and what you're happy to create. So I think that's really what's cool about it, and it worked out really nice. So on this album, tell me a little bit about. Do you have a not that you have a favorite song, or do you have a song that has a story connected with it personally, or
Uh
over
yeah,
here?
I guess a couple of them are like tongue-in-cheek songs about drugs,
Mm,
which and they don't fall one way or the other. It's not saying it's good or it's bad. It's just it's my opinion saying, well, if you smoke hash, there's a good chance you're going to get paranoid, and and it's going to come and kick you in the ass if you keep doing it. So, but I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying, it does. It's so that's quite personal, and I guess the song Hellbent on Compromise, I actually stole that title from the artist Edwyn Collins of Orange
mm.
Juice. He had an album called that, and I always thought that was a great title. Um, and that's very much a kind of story about working for record companies, about going. A friend of mine who's still working for record companies
Right.
has a phrase which was there is no selling out, there is only cashing in. you know
This is
so
true. The
if
old
you get an if you get an opportunity to sell your product, to sell your t-shirts, to go on tour, go for it.
Right,
So
and I really like the double meaning of on high on your own supply, which is basic
yeah,
high on your supply, which basically and the supply is love. I just love
yes, oh
that
thanks,
whole dual message there, which is
yeah,
it just
it's
goes.
it's got some of my favorite lyrics on that one, and it was the last song for the album.
Oh, really?
So yeah, and I collaborated with a producer here called Jimmy Hogarth on that one. The rest of the album is pretty much me playing everything except for Sally Herbert, who arranged the orchestra and the orchestra guys. You know,
Great. So,
so
so did you get a full orchestra in a studio to do this, or did everyone do their parts sort of in different studios, and you just had a lot of fun mixing?
but that's a worthwhile observation. Sally, the arranger, I would kind of mock up an arrangement, and she has actually worked on ELO records and Roy Orbison records. And then this was some of it was recorded during lockdown. So her partner is a cellist. She can play violin and viola. So she would do the arrangement, score it all out, and then they would just in the ELO way multi-track themselves till I would say I wanted to sound like two quartets, or they'd say, I want this one to sound more like a symphony orchestra, like 30 players.
Right.
So yeah, there was a little bit of technical chat, but hopefully the grandeur is what I was going for. That kind of not kind of pompous, but knowingly pompous, just like, this is stupid. Why are you putting strings on a 4-chord pop song? You
I think,
idiot.
yeah, I think that works great. Especially, there's a song that you do where I think there's a great example of that, which is "One Night in America," where the strings are
Oh,
just soaring on that piece,
oh,
and
thank you.
and it's just made so like there's so much majesty to every verse. I
Oh,
think that
wonderful.
kind of worked out
I,
really well as well.
I hope I got all the American cities. I pronounced them correctly. I have been to America many times, so I
All
haven't
right.
been to the cities that I mentioned. I've never been to San Antone.
Oh, okay.
There's probably a couple more.
Well, you got
Uh,
to visit. You got to get up. Now, COVID's like on the wane, so and you'll be able to visit soon.
hopefully November. Hopefully
Yes.
November.
All right, great.
Coming over
So
to see my friend Kazim Sultan.
wonderful. So
Yeah.
this leads me into my next question or my follow-up, which is what is next with Phil Thornalley?
Well, thank you, Aaron. He takes a deep breath and thinks. Um, I've actually got a whole nother album more or less ready to go
Woo!
of this because I've been a professional since I was 18 and I love doing it. I don't stop, you know. I kind of we High on Your Supply was the last song to get on the album, and then I just keep going. You know,
Right.
Andrew says that's the album, stop. And but that doesn't mean I stop writing, you know, and having fun. So there's that. There's also another Astral Drive album of kind of curios, you know, songs that didn't quite go on the albums that are available right now. So more kind of Todd Majesty and
Great.
yeah, I mean, why? I don't know. I love doing it. So
Do you have? I got to ask you a Todd question. Do you have a favorite Todd Rundgren album or era? I mean, it
yes.
sounded from the first album, Astral Drive, that you really liked Initiation. As
Okay. Oh, that's cool.
you know, because
That's cool.
you had these long passages, particularly on the second half of the album,
Yeah.
which just you reminded me of that.
Oh, cool. Not many people know that album, but it's pretty like he went to India and he got some Eastern kind of philosophical influences.
Yeah.
But the album for me was, most people talk like power pop, Something Anything is the album
Yeah.
for the power pop people. Then there's for the LSD fans, there's A Wizard of True Star, which is just like a piece of art, just incredible. But the one for me, the gateway drug, was the one after that called Todd. It's just called Todd. And it had heavy metal, it had soul, it had power,
Is It
power
Love?
pop.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the big song for me was this kind of throwaway Beach Boys pastiche, Beach Boys meets Motown pastiche called Useless Begging. No one ever talks about it. The moment I heard that song, I swear, I was about 14 and I thought, I have to know how to do this. And I really did. It was an epiphany. You know, it's a wonderful thing to happen in your life when you suddenly realize what you want to do.
I think the fans basically latched onto that
That
because
sound, yeah.
he liked that stuff and we liked
Yeah.
what he liked. And that's it. That's
Yeah.
all that mattered.
Yeah.
But you're right with that.
Uh,
I guess is there any other support with this album? Now that I have your attention, is there going to be any kind of live concert or anything to that effect?
Well, at the moment, the way I promote it is actually through Instagram. I do occasionally, sometimes I announce it. I'll sit with the guitar and sing the songs on Instagram or Facebook. Instagram's a bit bigger audience, but that's the kind of thing I pop up every Friday night. So if I can, if they follow me on at Phil Thornalley on what I like to call Instagramophone, then you might find me there singing songs. Unfortunately, as you're well aware, you have to sell a lot of records to be able to tour or you know, or have a hit. And much as they are the rules. So I'm, you know, Summer of '76 got a lot of attention. But we have a video for another one of the tunes called Solid Gold Sunshine, a very kind of glam rock tune.
Yes.
And that'll be, you know, another 4 or 5 weeks. But that's the future as far as I'm going.
Great. Well, that's excellent. Yeah. So I'm telling everyone, go to Phil's Instagram.
Yeah.
and go every so often and see that he might have a concert there for you.
I know. I have a lot of fun with it. I've done it for so many years that it's very laid back. I take requests. I try and remember songs that I wrote 40 years ago and stumble through the chords, and but it's fun. I like to sing. I like to share my music.
Awesome. Well, I love to listen to it. I know my audience loves to listen to it. Please don't stop. Please keep making great music and having fun while you're doing it. because the audience knows when you're having fun as opposed to when
I'd like to think so.
play.
Yeah.
And I think you should keep doing it no matter what they tell you at Low Jinks.
Yeah. Straight up.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Phil Thornalley.
Thanks,
Make
Aaron.
sure to get his album. Now that I have your attention, it's got all the great music that if you're a Wilburys fan, you're going to love it. So check it out. All right. Thanks so much, Phil. Appreciate the time.
Cheers. Thank you, Aaron.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.